Short track racing, man. I missed it. Too bad we only have 6 of them in the year. I will probably get demonetized for what is on my shirt right now, but hopefully I don't. YouTube, please understand. It's a TV show. I mean, come on. Just, do I have to go like this? Do I have to record the video like this? Can I just be normal, So first things first, let's get right into how the race was. And it was great. I don't think you guys would disagree with that. Just my opinion. You had a lot of cautions, you had a lot of wrecks. That always equals more people liking the race. But other than that, you had old Bristol for the first few laps of a run, and then new Bristol for the rest of the run. Lap traffic, leaders never pulled away, a lot of lead changes, a lot of different leaders, a lot of passing within the pack, a lot of, just a lot of good stuff, and a lot of not talking about dirty air. I think you've heard not much conversations about that this race because drivers had less downforce in this race with more horsepower, had to drive the cars, and you saw that drivers, no matter where they were, they just picked a lane, even if it was right behind another driver, and they were able to get the run on someone and make the pass. It is beautiful racing, and that's why short tracks are amazing. That's why this package also helps too, because if you take this race and compare it to another Bristol race with a different, more downforce package, you will see that this race does excel more than those races in terms of passing and just drivers being able to, drive their race cars. So what happens when you give drivers being able to drive their race cars? You give drivers the ability to make stupid moves and give us entertainment, which is exactly what happened. Pure short track racing, not technically stupid, but you go for the win, you have to use the brakes and throttle, and you gotta send your car in there, and this time, Mr. Wonder Boy, Princess, most popular driver, he got it very wrong. So let's jump right to the end of the race before we talk about, the other drivers and the rest of the race. So let's set up the scenario. Chase Elliott in the lead with Mr. Joey Logano behind him. Logano gets a beautiful run and gets past Mr. Elliott, clears him. Didn't have a lot of room to clear him, but cleared him. Elliott then gives a bump and run to get back underneath Logano, side by side, hanging in turn 3. And then Chase Elliott was thinking about the next race at Atlanta and licked the envelope and sent it to the next race at Atlanta. He did not think about winning this one at all. And he made sure Joey Logano came with him in the UPS package. Brad Keselowski then just decides the seas have parted and beautiful scenes and whoop-de-doo, a miracle, and Brad Keselowski wins the race. Let's head back to that incident. It is a racing incident, but it is not make Chase Elliott look smart. Now you guys must be thinking, hey, I am a Chase Elliott / Hedgehog Motorsports fan. Will I be harsh on him? Of course. I'm a racing fan. I'm neutral. What Chase Elliott did deserves some fisticuffs. Little uppercut. Boom, boom, bah, bah. But with a obvious social distancing rules that are not in place right now in most of the country because of what's going on. In the face mask, we don't do that. And, Elliott is a good kid, and Logano Logano's not the aggressive kind of, well, he's still aggressive on track, but he's not the brashy, young, aggressive type that he was a few years ago where he got into fights with everyone. Plus, Logano's not really the fighter. He's not the one that instigates the fights most of the time. But if I was Joey Logano, I'd be pretty pissed off. And he was pretty pissed off. He got wrecked, of course, racing for the win. And it seemed like both guys know that. There is no controversy or discussion here to be had. Chase Elliott was trying to make a move, and if he didn't run into the side of Logano, to be fair, Logano had the faster car in the short run. He already cleared him once, and then he had the upper lane. There was no way Elliott was really going to get around. So Elliott, in that split second going to the back straightaway, probably thought this is do or die, got to do something. I bet he was trying to run him up the track, but I also bet he wasn't thinking he'd completely lose control of his car, which is exactly what happened. Some Elliott fans will find any excuse to try to bail him out, and they were saying that he blew a tire, but no, he did not blow a tire. You can see as soon as he entered the corner, he had no grip, back end slid away from him, the front end slid away from him, literally he had no grip in any of the 4 tires, and he just used Logano instead of the wall, and put Logano in the wall. It is a classic short track racing incident. One where Logano should be very upset, and we would not be surprised if Logano gives something back to Elliott in a late race situation in the future at some specific instance, just either flats out wreck him or, puts him in the wall. It honestly will be expected and probably deserved. We'll see that in, down the line. But other than that, guys, I thought it was a great race. Let's talk about what happened during the race. And I watched this entire race, and I was entertained thoroughly throughout the entire race. The Hendrick guys performed pretty well, including Jimmy Johnson. We'll touch on him in a second. Gibbs guys performed well, except for Truex, who is something's wrong with that 19 team. They are not performing very well at the moment in terms of speed in the race car. But Hendrick guys were up front. Gibbs guys were up front. Stewart-Haas Racing guys up front. Shout out to Christopher Bell, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who we'll touch on Ricky Stenhouse as well. But they ran very well. John Hunter Nemechek has been running extremely well this season for the equipment that he is in. Let's jump back and touch on with Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who was running in the top 5 at one point, and he had an incident with Mr. 7-Time. I saw a tweet comparing this to the Kyle Busch incident, which is, if you want to be very simplistic on it, I mean, you're wrong. It's not even close to being the same. Ricky Stenhouse had Matt Kenseth right in front of him, and Stenhouse checked up for Kenseth. Jimmy couldn't see that, and that's how Jimmy made the contact with Stenhouse. Jimmy was just trying to fall in line and go to the top side, but that checkup from Kenseth made Stenhouse check up a good amount, and it made him, I would say, probably a few tens, maybe 100 feet, something like that. Not 100 feet, that's way too much, but it made him check out a good amount going at speeds that fast, and then Jimmy just didn't know it was happening, and that caused the wreck. Was it Jimmy's mistake? Yes. But was it like the mistake Kyle Busch made at Darlington? No, because Chase Elliott is not checking up. Chase Elliott's just going straight. Kyle Busch is trying to fit into a hole, and he just hooked Elliott into the left rear. This one is Jimmy is also trying to fill into the hole, which technically there was a lot of space behind him. Really unfortunate for Stenhouse because he had a great run going, and I'm actually very pleased with how he's performing in the 47. Ricky Stenhouse is someone we always knew he had talent. I mean, you don't win 2 championships in the Xfinity Series without having talent. So he's always had talent, just being consistent with it because he's very aggressive and sometimes try to get too much out of the car. And in this instance, he makes a lot of mistakes, but in this instance, nowhere near his fault. Really unfortunate, and Jimmy deserves the blame there, but it's not nearly the same as the Kyle Busch incident. Jimmy just didn't see the checkup. So if that checkup wasn't there, obviously Jimmy would not have hooked Stenhouse. Let's touch on the top 10 results and go through some of the drivers. Keselowski, Boyer, Jimmy, Kyle, Eric Jones, Austin Dillon, who brought out one of the cautions, probably on purpose. Just saying, he slowed down and then sped right back up when the caution came out, so that gets him a 6th place finish. I mean, NASCAR, if you want to do something about these intentional cautions, just saying, but he gets a 6th place finish. Good run for RCR. Kurt in 7th, William Byron 8th, Christopher Bell in 9th, Bubba Wallace with a much-needed good run in 10th place. I think Bubba has a lot of weaknesses in the intermediate tracks and not short tracks, at the road courses, but at short tracks, Bubba does fairly do pretty well. So good job for Bubba Wallace. And then just some notable shout-outs outside the top 10. You have Ryan Preece, John Hunter Nemechek, Michael McDowell, 12th, 13th, and 14th. 3 drivers there that had some pretty good runs. One person you don't see here is Denny Hamlin. And Denny's going to be pissed at himself because he kind of choked this one away. When we were watching the last 100 laps, I was thinking to myself, Denny Hamlin's getting very lucky because you see he doesn't have the fastest car, but the caution comes out in a specific time, or he gets the right lane restart at a specific time to keep him in the lead, or his pit crew gets him in the lead once he loses it. And so Denny Hamlin was in the lead even with 10 laps to go, and all he had to do was defend, use the top lane to defend, and then Denny, he choked, he got too high up, ended up wrecking himself. Not completely. He was still in a pretty good position, but then when Elliott makes the move on Logano, gets Logano loose, that put Hamlin in a very bad situation and pretty much ended his day. He ended up finishing somewhere around 17th or 18th. Tough situation for good old Dennis Hamilton, one of the best drivers in the sport right now, but he did not do a very good job there. And surprisingly, honestly, he usually capitalizes. I can't speak English. He usually succeeds at the short tracks when he's in winning positions. Richmond, Bristol, Martinsville, always does very well at short tracks, one of the best short track racers out there, but choked it away there with 10 laps to go. Probably would have won the race. I don't think Logano, Elliott, or Kyle Busch at the end of that race was going to be able to pass him, even though all 3 of them had a better car than Hamlin. I don't think they were able to get around him. And then that set up the chaos for the end of the race. One other driver I want to talk about is, let's say, Jimmy Johnson in 3rd place. Funny thing about Jimmy Johnson, and this is where I'm going to touch on the choose cone. If you guys don't know what that is when basically every driver gets to choose their lane. So 1st place chooses, and then 2nd place chooses, and then 3rd place chooses, and 4th place chooses. Or you could do a different style of choose cone, which I think is more normal at the dirt races. Is 1st place chooses, and then 2nd place goes to the outside, and then or is outside inside, and then 3rd place chooses, 5th place chooses, 7th place chooses. So basically every odd driver or odd number driver picks their lane, and whether it be outside or inside. So you could do that. I think that'd be a more simple way and the normal way you do the choose cone. And if they had that in this race, I think Jimmy Johnson probably would have won the race, or you would have been at least in the top 2 positions. Jimmy, towards the end of the race, just kept restarting on the bottom. And, so for example, like someone like Chase Elliott, who was fourth, and Jimmy was, let's say, second on the inside lane, Chase Elliott was able to get around him. And that's just something where I think the choose cone needs to be implemented so it doesn't really screw over these drivers who just get unlucky. Like, you get unlucky 3, 4, 5 times every restart, and that pretty much cost Jimmy a chance at winning this race because he was never able to get off the bottom lane in these restarts. But it is a much needed good finish for him, and he did show speed, which is what I like to see. And eventually, if he just gets a little bit of luck and he just puts himself in a position to win, it's gonna come. Eventually, it has to happen. There's too much speed in Hendrick Motorsports right now, where it's not just going to be Chase or Alex Bowman or Byron if he gets up there. It's not just going to be those guys. Jimmy will eventually win a race. Alex Bowman, one person I want to talk about, he wasn't anywhere near today. Where did he finish? He finished 37th, had an accident. He got in an accident, but even before that, he was not running well at all. So not a good run for Alex Bowman at the short tracks, and just had to do better. Overall, guys, that was a very good race, 9 out of 10, even maybe a 10 out of 10 because you had the dramatic finish with the good lead changes, good racing, and actually, I think I could give it a 10 out of 10. I mean, I can't think of anything negative of the race. Like, everything I care about, which is drivers being able to pass and being able to be competitive and being able to control their cars and just be aggressive, short track racing, that was all there. I did not mention, or I didn't hear a mention of dirty air once the entire podcast. And do you know how refreshing that is to not have to hear about dumb clean air or dirty air? Just give the drivers a race car and let them go race other drivers. That's what we want to see. Cars racing other cars, drivers racing other drivers, not drivers racing air. It's not exactly what I want to see. So it was great to see tonight. Or today, and we had a great race, and I honestly I could give it a 9.5 or a 10 out of 10. I mean, it's Bristol, it's short track. They have a nice balance of giving us old Bristol, especially early on in the race when the traction compound gets heated up, everyone's running around the bottom, and then the longer the run goes, you move to the top, and then every restart you tend to go back to the bottom, and then at the end of the race you have multiple lanes. So the entire race, the track is different the entire race, so I think they found a nice blend of give the fans old Bristol while maintaining the fans who like new Bristol. And all in all, basically you have to, as a driver, adapt and put your car where the track is fastest at that specific time. So sometimes it'll be fast on the bottom, sometimes it'll be fast at the top, sometimes it'll be fast in the middle, sometimes it'll be fast everywhere, and you just have to find your way around lap traffic. So I think I'm happy with Bristol right now. As much as I would still love old Bristol, the same configuration, you can't run the top, bump and run all the time. This is a very, very, you can't really complain. It's a very good racetrack right now, and I think they've done a good job. Next up in the schedule is Atlanta, and then after that, I think is Martinsville, and then Homestead, Talladega. I think I'm not looking at the schedule, but we'll see how Atlanta is. Long race, 500 miles. Kind of worried about that, but we'll see how that goes. And everyone make fun of Chase Elliott in the comments. He can take it, and that was a bad move on his part. Every driver is going to make one, and he probably has something coming to him in the future. And it sucks for Logano because he probably would have won the race without it. Brad Keselowski, go to Las Vegas, gamble. Good job. If you guys like the video, make sure you hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Comment down below with your thoughts on the race. Anything I missed, anything I got wrong, let me know. And follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you're not already. Links on the description below and everything there. I will see you guys later. Stay safe, and peace out.